we kind of ended with her right now talking about Clay in prison and how you broke episode 10 and he's still there. I mean, what can you say about that?
Without getting killed?
Oh, yeah, without getting killed. It's very different.
Kurt gave me a good license to say something because on his Twitter he talked about how if the character could be summed up in one word this season, it would be redemption.
Yeah.
And I think that's so deep. I think, everyone thought we should just kill Clay because everyone hates Clay. Clay is worthless. And Clay's done such. I don't know how Clay's still alive. And if redemption is the theme of Clay, then the question becomes, can he get back? Can Clay do anything to be trusted again? Can he ever regain his wife's love after what she's done? Who knows? So I think one of the really interesting things that's playing out this season in a very interesting way that you're going to find is the unexpected actually happens when it comes to Clay.
Really good season.
So he lives.
No, what about Tara? She's also behind bars, so that's a very
Tara's getting in a lot of trouble. Is she getting a little dark? She's punching people and getting into fights and hitting them with her cast. Didn't she used to be a doctor who worked on babies?
The club.
It's the club and it's hanging around Gemma. As my mother said, you need to get Tara away from Gemma. She thinks I have something to do with actually writing the story, so she calls me. You need to keep Tara away from Gemma. Because everything that Gemma is rubbing off on her, and she's getting meaner and meaner and meaner. And I say, okay, Mom, I'll do my very best to keep Tara away from Gemma. But that's what's happening. They're sort of merging. And she's getting some of the worst, well, not the worst, but some of the darkest traits of Gemma and making them her own. And she's used them pretty well. And I think in season 6, you're going to see her master.
At the end of last season, we saw Gemma kind of standing behind Jax, taking Tara's place. Will that kind of continue in this season, that Gemma tries to kind of be that person right next to Jax?
Well, let me see. What can I say that will give you a little something, because I know you've been here a long time. I will say that it becomes a power struggle that reaches its final conclusion between those two women. I believe the end of last season, Tara ended up on top. As you may recall, I think she had her hand in the cast over Jack. And this season, she's been banished and Mama's back in the house. So I think in 6, you're going to see the final, Godzilla versus the, what are those things called? The Kojis? Charlie things? Kajus. You're going to see the final battle between those two ladies. And, one of them's going to win.
That's a good tease.
And which one is it? I'm just kidding.
As much as we say we want to know, we don't want to know.
You don't really want to know.
I don't want to know.
But you should know I think it's going to be resolved.
What can you say about the new VP and a new Sergeant at Arms? I know you can't probably give that away, but how do they kind of compare to what Bobby was doing?
It's a whole different vibe. I mean, Bobby walked away from the club, and Jax had to make some changes, and they changed the whole dynamic of the club. It's so interesting when you move different people into those different positions, Sergeant Arms and VP, and he really functions with them.
Yeah.
The whole club's different, but also the club doesn't have that many members. Can you count how many members are in the Sons of Anarchy Motorcycle Club at this point? I believe there's Jax.
Yeah.
I think Juice is still alive. There's Chips. There's Tig. There's Happy. Am I missing anyone?
It's a couple of the minor players.
The prospect.
Oh, there's Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
But he's not a prospect. I think that's it. I think there's 6 guys in this club.
Will there be some active recruiting this season?
Yeah, I think we got one way to go. We can either shut down, or I think you have to have at least 4 members to be a charter is the rule. So either we're going south, or we got to get some more members in it. I think part of the season is going to be really interesting when you see who comes in and who comes on board, and where they come from. It's going to be interesting because I don't think we're going to shut down because we're going for another season. So it's likely that we're going to grow.
What is having Lee Torek in here on a slightly more permanent basis this season? What does that do to the dynamic? Is it Tara he's after or the club?
I like Donald Logue's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
And he's amazing at being dark. And I think he started off as, really pointing his vengeance towards Tara. I think it's now spread to, I've got to take Sons of Anarchy down. Especially with Otto killing his sister in that way. And it's just flipped. So I think this season, and we're going to be very careful about this, you're going to see him attempt a very dark retribution on Sons of Anarchy.
Death? Should we expect some of those this season? And how do they compare to the shock of Opie?
Of
last
Opie,
year? Yeah.
I think you'll be shocked this season.
I just got the chills.
I know you
I
didn't
like
like
that
the
answer.
Opie. Did anyone like Opie's death? Did anyone think it was okay? I've yet to find, I'm going around these tables, I've yet to find.
No television. Every other television death after that will pale in comparison and have paled in comparison.
It's true. That was really, really hard.
That set the bar.
Yeah. And in a way, I was really proud of Kurt for doing it and doing it early in that season in the way that you don't expect it.
Yeah.
Because usually a death like that would happen later. It's very much like when I was on NYPD Blue, we did with Jimmy Smits. He died in episode 6, as opposed to, episode 22 from there. So this was really interesting. And in 3, when you're just watching Sons of Anarchy and the season's just begun, to have something that monumental happening, I think added to the show. There are going to be more people who are not going to make it through the season. And you're going to be sad again, and I'm sorry in advance.